Welcome back to the Mel K Show. One of my best friends is back with us today. Somebody who's a true hero and a patriot and has put in an unbelievable amount of time, effort, and energy into righting a lot of the wrongs in our very, very corrupt election system, among other things. Thank you for joining me, Jovan Hutton Pulitzer. Welcome,
Thank you.
Sir.
Thank you so very much for having me. And you know what? The love is mutual. Thank you very much.
I know, and we have been through the ringer, and you are not even close to giving up on this nation or on fixing our election system. You are working right now, and people are not realizing that these people that we are fighting, I call them the global public-private partnership or whatever you want to call them, that want to see America give up, frankly, are not stopping, and they are actually planning to take back power in 2026 by any means necessary. And as we know, they have many, many plans. And yet I don't see anyone on the conservative side or even the independents or the MAHA or the MAGA paying much attention to what is going on and how to stop that in 2026. But I know you are. So let's get into what you're working on and how people can get involved.
Well, you know, I need to hark back to what we did with the full forensic audit in Arizona in 2021. And just remind people that undertaking of exactly taking a look at elections and being able to look at every single ballot, every single transaction had never happened before in American history. So we got a hold of 2 million ballots. Maricopa is the fourth largest county in the United States, second largest voting bloc. Did all kinds of forensics. I'll give you some numbers in a moment. But, you know, we've been finding for 4 years and over 4 months now since the audit to get this information out there and to work through the due process of law. Now, put a pin in that for a moment. At the same time, just before we were to start coming out with the reports in Arizona from looking at the people, the paper, and the programs, that's what it is, all of a sudden we all get promoted several different things. One was I infiltrated an Antifa call and we heard an election executive say, don't worry about Trump, we have it fixed. Well, the net result of that is that call could never be proved. And eventually, when it sees sometimes in court, people are saying, well, I thought it was that executive. Now, the only thing it netted was $7 billion in lawsuits that Dominion got to file. And they've now been paid over $1 billion in cash by people that repeated that nonsense that wasn't provable. Now, the second thing that happened back when we know something went wrong in this election was, hey, don't worry about it. We have all the data. We know where every vote was swapped, every vote was switched. It was the machines, and we have the PCAPs, and the lawmakers are going to come in, and we're going to show them all 3,300 counties and what happened. Well, of course, that was the cyber symposium. It, too, gets to the point that it gets to court, and we find out it never existed. They never had it. Yet we sit here in a system, and this is what we did, and this is what I want people to understand, because it's never been done before in history. We processed 20,895,610 forensic images that we took of everything having to do with the election. It's just like going into a crime scene when you see the photography, digital, forensic photography come in. Out of those, we produced, specifically for the courts, because ours is designed to be prosecutable evidence, we produced 208 million individual proof files. Now, why do you present proof files? Because you have to show how all of this happens. And what we did to do that, we got 58 billion forensic transactions that we did, where we do these steps to look at them. That was over 58 billion, ended up doing about 2 trillion computations. Now, you have to understand how this works. This is akin to DNA. You must collect it right. You must document it right. You must process it right. You must send it out and cross-confirm. You got to check it against the database. You have to have irrevocable evidence. Now, I think this is what made the system so terrified of us. And I think that's why we got this fantasy out there that it was the machines, because it was planned that way, switching votes on TV. It all comes down to paper. Now, here's the short of it. If you and I changed something in a voting machine, deleted a piece of software or something. Our defense, the first defense would be, well, it was just an accident, we didn't know. Even if it went to court for something like that, even if you could switch a vote, even if it went to court, at best, it's a $1,000 fine and or 1 year in prison if they prove intent. Now, all of this comes down from the Election Assistance Commission. The Election Assistance Commission is actually not only some politicians, but also the very voting companies that run the votes. They're on the commission. Here's how the rules read. The accessibility, the security, right, and the operation of all of these things is 100% voluntary. Now, I ask you, how can we have elections in the United States that's voluntary? What it does is it gives them a way to get off the hook. What we've done is we can prove who did it, when they did it, how they did it, and all the people involved. And because it's with a ballot, well, each ballot is both a state and federal felony if you mess with it. And that's what we can prove.
Now, we have to remember that a lot of the stuff that came out was all over the place. But at the end of the day, the ballots are the issue. And the mail-in voting was the mechanism for that. And as we have seen, certain people go out there and say, you know, vote early, ballots, we got registrations. Well, that really isn't going to help anyone if the ballots aren't marked and individual and all of that. So I know a long time ago, years ago, you talked about the paper and kind of a watermark or a stamp on them, like anything else we have, and some kind of registry and all of that. So let's talk a little bit about the difference between looking at it in terms of ballots and paper and tracing, because there is still a myth out there that mail-in voting is something that, you know, is okay. It's not okay. It never was okay. Right now, there's about to be a obviously a globalist-run election in Moldova, which also has that young globalist leader in there because of mail-in ballots, according to everyone there. This has happened in Romania. It has happened. And again, a lot of these mail-in ballots were coming from overseas in these elections as well. So what is the deal with the ballots? Because the ballots is the issue.
Well, the first part of it is enforcement ability. When you physically manipulate the ballot, now that doesn't mean you put something on the paper. It means the paper came in, but you did something to make sure it didn't count the way it was cast. Well, first off, that's a felony. Now, remember, all of it's trackable. Anything you have to do in elections, you have to prove when it was done, how it was done, and you also have to prove, did it impact the outcome of the election? We've heard that from Barr and other people before. That's the key. Now, you can never do that with machines. Here's the big disconnect for me, and I'll just go back to remind a few things of 2020. They used the pandemic to say that we've got to do mail-in ballots all across the country. Well, the very first time that any of us were locked down in 2020, when they said, well, don't go out, don't do things, was July 4th weekend. That's when they really started saying, hey, you got to kind of do this social distancing. We weren't locked down yet. So this is July 4th, 2020. When we got to the point of lockdown, we got towards the end of the year that we were in a very serious lockdown. Now, this started about September was when it was in the height of it. Now, let's think about this because the election was in November. Here's my disconnects with it. Aside from the first time in history happening, the ballot printer, for example, in Arizona, the ballot printer in that case ordered the single largest order of automated ballot stuffing machines in the history of the United States of America. In fact, they ordered 10 times more than would normally be thought to be needed. They placed that order April 1st of 2020. So I have to ask this question. If they placed the order April 1st, so they could have it ready to go by, October when they have to have it ready. How did they know? Now, that tells me something's nefarious. Now, let's dig a little bit deeper. Most people haven't heard about. In the United States of America, we basically have what's called the mail cover program. Some people thinking about delivery, confirmation, et cetera. But every single piece of mail that goes through the Postal Service gets a digital photograph front and back. Now, it's normally kept for 10 years for law enforcement purposes. This is how they find out who sent a letter with an anthrax scare in it. It's how they track it back. They're able to track the envelope through the system using computer vision.
Right.
Well, in 2020 for the election, for some reason, nobody knows why, but our United States government suspended mail cover. Never been done before in history, ever.
God.
Suspended mail cover.
Wow.
And then what they did, and now the way they suspended it was kind of a hokey way to do it, but very effective. Instead of normally having it available for law enforcement, they basically said, well, we have this social distancing and we can't do it, which if you understand how it's done, it's all robotic. It doesn't take a person. But they claimed that was the excuse. So what they did is they turned the dial to 30 days. We're going to do the images, but we only have to keep them for 30 days. Now, we didn't even get to lawsuits about 2020 for 30 days. They couldn't be filed because of social distancing and lost offices, et cetera, being closed. So by the time we get back into it, because I could have tracked every one of those envelopes, known all the bad people and looked at it, normally you can get this as part of law enforcement, they didn't exist. And oh, by the way, once we got through the election, and Joe Biden got in, they turned it back to the original time frame. Now, if that doesn't tell you that there was a grand conspiracy around the mail-in ballot, I don't know what does. And folks, what do you think 2,000 mules deposited in drop boxes? Mail-in ballots. And that's why even Putin, which I agree with, told President Trump, look, you've got to get rid of these mail-in ballots. Right. They're out of control. Right. And what is the RNC saying at the same time? Bank your ballot. What does that mean? Vote early and get mail-in ballots. Even the RNC is not standing strong with President Trump, but we're the only team in the world that has this information.
Yeah, now there's something else that I learned that has never come up. First of all, that whole thing is Transition Integrity Project. I don't think any of these people have been investigated, at least not that I've seen. I cannot believe that they're not prioritizing everything that you're talking about. We all remember when Mark Zuckerberg put $300 million into mail-in ballots and drop boxes, went on Facebook and told everyone that it would be a few weeks because of mail-in ballots, preparing for it. What you're talking about the April date, that lines up with the Transition Integrity Project simulation of how Trump would win and the 11 suggestions on how to stop him. Right. As we know, George Soros announced that he would stop Donald Trump, as did many other people involved. And we saw them all sitting around the table with him last week at the Tech Bro event, sitting one side, is Zuckerberg, the other side is Gates. They both put in millions and hundreds of millions of dollars to beat him in 2020. And that to me was like a slap in the face. And it's not 5D chess. It's not. That's not what's going on. So the people have to really step up county by county and get this information out there. Two, I learned that the entire, and I don't know if this is true, but you would know, the entire checking of signatures was outsourced to a AI of some sort. That the signatures were not checked by people. That it was an AI program. If that is true too, then that's another way to use the ballots and manipulate them.
Well, let me tell you how that works, if I can. Sure. You are 100% correct. That AI was introduced. That advancement in signature checking was introduced by the very company that prints, stuffs, and mails the ballots. Here's what they did. Think of it as a checklist, okay? And in that program, they had 15 points to check, right? They're going to go through 15 different checks. When it came to election day, they dialed it back to 1. That basically means you have to reach the minimum threshold. And then they did a very sneaky thing. See, when you think of your signature, you think of what's on your driver's license. So let's just use that as the standard. It's your signature. You have another signature. Your other signature that you have is when you did your actual voter registration. So now they have something that should look at your actual voter registration and your driver's license. Well, they created this nifty little rig called the voter file. See, it's not looking at your signature. It's looking at what is called your voter file. Now, let me tell you what your voter file is. Along with these systems like ERIC and local governments and stuff, they go out and they find every signature you've ever signed, including department stores, gas stations, convenience stores, you know, where you just scribble your name?
Yeah, of course.
Right. Any kind of documents. They're able to pull all of that in. They say they append it to your voter file. Now it's not signature. You just think it sounds official. They're going to check it to your voter file. All of those are primarily scribbles, and that's how they pass it through the system, even down to just being a dot, because it's actually not looking. And that's how they blow them through the system really fast, by saying it's a confirmation. Let's just track that down for a minute. I'll give you Maricopa real numbers.
Great.
In Maricopa, we fought for 15 months.
Right.
I and my team are fighting. We want to see every ballot that was returned as one of the 5 dones. No such person, no such number, no such address, unknown or deceased. Now, Maricopa, for some reason, did not report their numbers to the Election Assistance Commission. They kept on holding back. Most states report in 30 days. So we start doing machinations to find out what it was. And when push comes to shove, we find out there is over 110,000 of those in Maricopa that came back. Maricopa, though, finally reported that it was about 56,000. Then I asked, okay, where are they? Because they're supposed to keep them by law. They said, well, we gave them to run back. The people who printed them get to run back. They said, we didn't know we had to keep them. They destroyed them. Well, here's the deal. When you have a ballot packet, which is the outside envelope, a ballot, a security envelope, and you get those back undelivered, what they do is they operate what's called a ballot cracking procedure. They split it open. They take out the security envelope. They take out the ballot. Then, as they're watching election results, because these are all by county, they have everything they need. They'll cast the vote they need. They'll drop it in the security envelope. They'll scribble something on it. That is what's passed to a ballot mule. And the ballot mules go out dropping them in the box. Why is that? Because that is a legal ballot voted illegally. And if I tell you, which I will, tell you what happened on election day and the evidence we have, people should really know this, because you're going to flip your lid.
For any of you that have been with me for the long haul, you know that you've seen me go from out of shape to in shape to gaining weight during the COVID to losing weight finally. And guess what? I realize I want to feel great. I want to feel it inside. And that's why I have decided to team up with my friend Tim, who runs Chemical Free Body. I have been watching them for years. A lot of my friends at Union of the Unwanted are also Chemical Free Body people. We have decided to get the chemicals out of our bodies, to live our best life now, to detox out whatever's in us. I mean, you hear about the glyphosate and the aluminum and the what they're spraying here and there. Well, let me tell you something. Chemical Free Body has something for everyone and everything that you are possibly worried about. This is from real life experience of being a master detox program. Well, Chemical Free Body has the solution if you are ready to be clean on the inside. So go to the Mel K Show Partners page right now and click on Chemical Free Body. Use the code MELK for a discount and start feeling amazing from the inside out.
So here we go. So I told you about how they basically took 110,000 ballots unaccountable in Maricopa. No way to track them.
And
The
wait, let me just
margin,
interject one second. This is
sure.
Katie Hobbs running this at the time?
This is Katie Hobbs running it.
Okay, got it.
And Fontes, who is, now the Secretary of State. So they're running this gig, okay?
Now they're governor and secretary of state.
Now they're governor. Hobbs was Secretary of State at the time. Fontes was head of Maricopa County and elections. All they did was swap roles and move up. But that's the promotion if you do a good job like they did in 2020. Anyway, so take 110,000 ballots, and none of them can be accounted for. And we know they're in system. So we gotta figure out how to build the case, because you can't just say it happened. You have to prove it. And that it happened in the election. And that's the most important thing of all. You have to prove in court beyond a reasonable doubt that this happened. So let me play a story for you. In Maricopa County, in the 2020 election, we got introduced to a brand new concept that before we were absolutely forbidden to do on ballots. And what was that? Use a marker, use a Sharpie. Remember, we all got told, don't use a Sharpie, use a pen. Well, Maricopa County, and I want you to keep count, okay? There's missing ballots, 110,000 of them. There is Maricopa County telling us, no, we want you to use a Sharpie. You have to use a Sharpie because everything else gums up the machine. If you go back in history, not a single reported error that Sharpies gum up the machines. Total BS. So they forced everybody to use Sharpies on election day. So that's the first thing that said, let's look at election day. Right. Now, next, they were supposed to use, and they promoted for a year and a half, we have this great, wonderful paper called Vote Secure Paper. And it's specifically designed to not allow bleed-throughs. So they primed the audience for that. Now, we got tipped off early on when we were going to do an audit that the right paper wasn't used. I worked with the paper manufacturer that says, we make this paper, we make the coding, we supply it for the elections. And they said they didn't place an order for it. I'm working directly with the manufacturer of the supposed paper. They said they didn't place an order for it. Well, the county shut down us working with the ballot printing company, and it all went hush-hush. So now you've got three things in it. So we decided to look at election day, when they used the Sharpies. On election day, and I'm just going to use round figures, just very easy round figures, 100,000 people, more than that, came in and voted on election day. Almost all of them used Sharpies. On those 100,000+ ballots, there were an extra, meaning because it bled through, meaning it looked like an extra vote, an extra 2.1 million votes. That's how bad it was. 2.1 million extra votes that shouldn't have been there. So what happens is it confuses the system when it runs in. So the system says, hey, I need a human to confirm this, but we think this is the real vote because all of these are out of bounds. Tell me what to do. Now that temporarily suspends it. So put a pin in that. They temporarily suspend it every single day, almost every single ballot on election day. So they're holding up here. Now, in elections, even though they run the ballot in for 30 days, they start on October 20th, and they run them in and say, but we don't tally them. Well, they do open the envelopes. They do take out the ballot. They scan it. The technicality in the term is tally, meaning we just didn't put it in the count system. They know exactly how many votes are there. So we can see it going through the entire day. Well, in this process, there's called a chain of custody. That chain of custody basically says, as these ballots are processed or picked up from drop boxes, people have to sign. So there's a sheet, and they say it came from this place. I'm the person that picked it up. Here is the security code I cut off the back of the box. Here's the new one I put on. I am transporting it. This person is going with me. Here's how many ballots we're transporting. There are no duplicates, or there are duplicates that's spoiled. Then it goes to what's called the MTech Center, the tally center. Security signs it in and says, I have taken this many ballots. I have taken possession, and they say how many ballots, and then another person confirms they've come in. Well, we basically have, we'll just call it 20+ days of those forms. Now, out of 20 days of forms coming from over 749 places, with all those signatures and information required, twice somebody filled it out wrong. They either forgot to sign something or they forgot to put X number of code. So we got 20 plus day of patterns to understand what their process is. But on election day, Sharpie day, we know the paper's not right. On election day, every single election day batch, when it came in, only had one signature saying, here's where they come from. Here is the security CAD took off, but everything else is blank, totally blank. Nothing else is filled in. By the way, the most important thing not filled in, how many election day ballots did they pick up? So we really don't know how many really came in election day. They have to tell us. Now, what you look at in evidence trail is you're looking for the connective tissues that prove this. So now we have a circumstance that arrived. We had claims that couldn't be verified. And now we have, well, there's no chain of custody, but we know something happened on them. Now, remember when we were fighting in Arizona to get a hold of the routers and to get a hold of the information? Yeah. We had to fight back and forth. There were lawsuits. And when it came down to the Senate and these guys and the county recorders being subpoenaed by law that says if you don't turn this over, you're going to jail, they magically turned over to us a drive and said, oh, here's what was missing. So we have all of these drives. We have all of this information for the election. We're trying to do our work. And it came down to, they said, well, you put in your document, you were looking for all of the votes for each of the areas, but you didn't say you were looking for anything we archived. So they used an excuse, you didn't ask for archives. Well, we finally got it. We thought. They give us this drive. It's in a special photo format, high-tech format, so it's really big. None of them could be opened. We couldn't make heads or tails of it. Me being in the tech industry, I go to the very people in labs that actually pioneered that format. And I said, here's a sample. Can you tell me why this format is not readable? We just can't read it. We can't even open it. They told us, we have no idea what's going on. This has been manually corrupted. We have no idea what's going on. So we go back to fighting with the county and they say, oh, we're sorry, we must have given you the wrong one. Well, we do finally get that drive. Magically, it's about the same number of ballots as the ones that were missing, as the ones on election day. As a matter of fact, it was every election day ballot. And when you compare them to 1.9 million, let's say, ballots that came in, so we know the structure and format. Here's where it came from. Here's the machine it went through. Here's the date and timestamp, et cetera. Guess what? All of that has been digitally cut off. Every single image got cut off. Now, that's another point that we're seeing this change. Next point, when a ballot goes in, you have the original ballot. You have the photographic snap of the ballot, let's say. Here's what got changed in adjudication, because we know they were adjudicated. And here's the final ballot we accepted. Here's how it went. Well, magically, all these same ones, another one that they had in common is they couldn't find somehow the original image of the ballot. So they could show us this is what we say is election day ballot, but we can't really prove it because somehow that original image got lost. Now put that in your, because you're now up to about 10. Then you look at all the telemetry for the ballots, because we're auditing everything. I know. Every transaction, every step, everything there can be. And you find out that they certified the election, the county certified the election on November 20th, as they're supposed to do. But even though they certified the election with Joe Biden winning and Trump losing by about 10,517 votes, they actually still had several 100,000 ballots to process. So the first question is, how did they certify that number? Then we go to November 30th, when the governor and the Secretary of State, Ducey and Katie Hobbs, are supposed to certify it. Now, remember that thing about President Trump calling Ducey at the time of certification. He's trying to tell him, don't certify this election, but he ignored that special ringtone. Well, the reason he was getting a phone call is President Trump was saying, none of this is real. But Ducey and Hobbs certified it. That was November 30th.
Like Atlanta.
That number still didn't exist. They didn't even have it. But magically, when we look at all the records, we find those 100,000+ ballots. We do find them. They ran them in over a month later. And then several months later, after the reporting criteria had expired, claimed they had to spoil them all and replace them. And that happened a month later. So here's the difference in what we have. What they try to do is they try to starve you out of this mess. Look, I'm probably the worst in this business because we did a $251,000 contract for our country to do this. We were going to do 10 different things to create new auditing and do it. I found out I needed to develop 25, and we did it. We spent over $3 million to do a $251,000 contract. So we go all the way through this, and then we're trying to turn it over. We're trying to turn over all the evidence to Arizona. And when the authorities in Arizona really understood what we had, said, well, that's too big for us. We really can't take possession. Well, that's too much information. Well, what they do is they do this delay game. And so what they did is they got people to focus on, it's the machines, or the voting company said, don't worry, we've taken care of Trump. Those are all misdemeanors. But where the felonies exist, they kept everybody away. But we keep on clicking away at tens of thousands of dollars every month to keep this stuff alive in perfect chain of custody. Now, here's what they didn't account for. Elections have definitive time limits, right? Even in elections, after 22 months, they can destroy evidence. That's why they do that. But when it's an audit, it's a different set of rules. And when it's an audit that's sanctioned by the Senate, created by the Senate, then it's when the auditor finishes their audit and submits everything. So we have stayed in open audit mode for over 4.5 years. We did that intentionally. I even have 5 more programs that we now know to detect this stuff so we can keep it open. That's how everything stays relevant and current. And when you say, here's the new stuff I discovered, and we show it, we get to also go back to the old stuff. So that's what the system has been afraid of. That's why they put all this stuff on TV. It's the machines, it's the machines, it's the machine, because nobody will be found guilty. But America needs answers.
Are lawfare. Then they put that in the press, and then the big lie, and then you have Mark Elias out there, and all these people, and the gerrymandering, which shouldn't matter if it was real voting. But the bottom line is also, this is how I feel about digital ID and the panopticon they're building and all this BS, is they're acting like computers and AI and all of this is more reliable than human beings that have to sign their signatures.
That's right, and it's junk.
We should go back to, I mean, they're acting like now that AI and technology is there, the humans aren't good enough. Well, that's the opposite, I think.
No, they use it to cover the crime.
Right.
They use it to cover the crime. They use it to have misdemeanors.
That's what it's
and
about.
That's why they don't want this.
People are able to do it. I see it all over the world.
Yes.
The countries that have actual, real, fair elections, human beings are getting them that day in that location. They're counting them that day. With all the money we throw around the world, we could hire people that have a call number. They have they log. They have to log in. They know who they are.
Right.
Actual human beings are held accountable for any anomalies. So to me, first of all, whatever the machines are, we shouldn't be using them, in my opinion. And
no, the machines have to go away.
I agree.
But you got to understand where the fight is. Right. You really have to, people, and I'm saying this to the public, not you, because I know you know. You have to understand where the fight is. You have to understand how they do this.
Right.
The only thing that makes them escape in any of this and permanently get away with it is when you finally do go to court, you can't prove it. So what they try to do is financially break you so you don't have the evidence. It's like killing a witness. By the time it gets to court, that's what they do, and that's how it works. But let me tell you how nefarious this is. I already told you about them shutting off postal stuff. Let me give you an example.
That's crazy.
When Carrie Lake lost her election, we knew this crap went on.
Yeah.
And if you remember, the ballot faces signature part where they got to sign, those happen to be scanned in because the machines have to do that. Well, under a court order, they regurgitated that. Now, somehow, I don't know how, but somehow they managed to get Dr. Shiva to look at those. And he did a report and says there's blanks and there's dots and there's scribbles, but it wasn't enough to change the outcome of the election. Well, I called BS because there were far more blank ones in there that have never been accepted than anything else. But here's the catch. At least they ingested the envelopes. So everything on the chain of custody documents, which are county workers, county contractors, we created a program that pulled in their signatures and created a very sophisticated mapping program to understand who that person was and who those signatures were. When we saw samples being presented in court for Carrie Lake, where they compared the signatures on the envelopes to the registration, they found a tremendous amount that didn't look like anything. But we caught something because of work we did in 2020. I said, hey, some of those signatures that we're seeing, I can tell you the county employee who signed it, because that's an county employee signature. And we have them on all these 2020 documents. So we go to fighting really hard to try to get a hold of that stuff that they were using in the Carrie Lake trials. As we're trying to pull it from people who were brand new auditors and brand new stuff, we found out that the RNC and the DNC allowed that to be turned over, but they had one condition. And the one condition they had, you cannot share the files with Jovan and his team. That was an actual limiter on the contract. You cannot share this file with Jovan and his team. We could have actually proven these are county employees signing this. So here's what you have. In this doctrine of how you have to show evidence, you can go from here to here to here to here to here to here, all the way through the process, from the time of printing or bringing in, all the way to the end, who counted and brought it in. We know all the people, all the names, all the signatures of everything and how it completely broke, again, showing their own 28-day track record. That's what the system fought hard to never have come in evidence. And here's why, folks. It comes down to definitions. Voter fraud. Yeah. Now, when an envelope comes in, they separate it from the signature envelope, and here's the ballot. The ballot goes this way, and the signature envelope goes this way to be verified. Now, they tell you in the United States of America, we have what's called the secret ballot. You can never tell who voted what. But yet, in almost every election, they find somebody who voted their dead mama's ballot. Now, the question is, stay with me, how did they do that? Number one, the morgue and the medical examiner does not report to the county who died. They blocked that. They say the family is responsible for saying the person died, which is stupid. Next, we know when it comes in mail, envelope goes one way, this ballot goes that way. So how did they find this one person? Now, here's what they do. There were 2,500,000 voters in Maricopa County, Arizona. Almost every time they find some voter that did something wrong. They do that so they can claim at the Brennan Center for Justice that voter fraud is very rare. Right. It barely happens, and we have a secure system. So they'll pony someone up, sign some little slap on the hand, misdemeanor, and they go to jail. That's what they use to tell you voter fraud's very rare. But here's what we're dealing with. When we can show you that the people that ran the election said on election day, stop filling this out, and everybody followed the instruction. When we can show you there were 2.5 million voters in Maricopa County, but the ballot printing company for Maricopa County printed 4,800,000 89,000 ballots, what they need all the extra ballots for. When we can show you that every single election day ballot was corrupted by a paper hack just to suspend it, and then we can show that it looks like every one of those ballots were replaced. Here's why they modified the drives and run them in, and they ran them in a month later, and then, or a month right after the election, and even more. How did they report that it was certified? Well, it never was certified. So this is all the evidence that leads up to it. When you can show that, it's not voter fraud. It's election fraud. That's federal racketeering. And that is why they stay away from the paper. That is why we need the public's help in this. Because if we can't hold on to this evidence, and they're going to do this in the midterms, folks.
I know they are.
I'm going to tell you how you can verify it.
I know, but I can't understand how, I mean, I am so disgusted and people keep telling me to calm down. I've fought hard enough. I've done enough. I put myself on the line. That there have been no indictments about the 2020 election, about lawfare, about all this stuff, NGOs, that I have. You have evidence. I have evidence. I've shown it to the administration. And yet, you have Ed Martin every day, like, good morning, America. How are you? Not good. Not good, because 2026, if these people take back power, not only are they going to undo everything, they're going to charge every single one of us for crimes we didn't commit. And frankly, the country's done. I mean, right now we're hanging by a thread, especially with the growing panopticon and nobody even thinking about the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, or that we were already stolen. Our whole country was stolen with the unconstitutional Patriot Act, which should have ended all this. If they have that kind of surveillance, they should be able to surveil this. But let's be very honest. They don't want us to have a voice or a vote. Any of them.
We're pushed around like chess pieces, like sheep.
Yeah. I mean, we have to be honest. So let's talk solutions. What can we, and I want to say one more thing about this.
Sure.
So I reconnected with a friend of mine from California that I was a roommate with years ago, and she still lives in that unit. She said every election I get like 3 or 4 ballots. I haven't lived in LA since 2012. And I immediately got a new license. So it's just ridiculous how they have, particularly in New York and California, the states that really, Georgia, all the states we're talking about. She said every election I get like 2 or 3 ballots.
They don't want them cleaned up. They want you to stay away from the voter rolls. Folks, I'm going to give you one test, and I'll tell you how we fix this. You look at election night 2020, and the 30 days counting that went through it. Kamala had roughly 68 million votes. So let me give them to you in sequence. Barack Obama, during his first term, we all know he was supposed to be a rock star, had 69 million popular votes. His second term, he had 65 million popular votes. Hillary against Donald J. Trump had 65 million popular votes. Then we got Biden, shot up to 81 million votes. And then we're supposed to believe that Kamala in the 2024 election against Trump had 68 million votes. Right now, when you're done with the program, I want you to open Google, it doesn't even matter where it is, and I want you to type in official presidential count of the 2024 election. Here's what you're going to find. Now, you know how far we are since the 2024 election. If you were to look right now, they have Kamala now setting at 75 million votes. You can verify that for yourself. She was at 68. They have added 8 million more votes to her since the election. What are they doing? They're actually trying to create plausible cover for all of those 21 million bad files that were on the files in 2020, plus the 10 million illegals they let in and registered with motor voter. Right. This is why they don't want you around the paper. This is why they did that hack. Now, the reason they did it is because come the midterms, we're going to lose the House and possibly the Senate. They are going to bring President Trump up again. They're going to bring him up on charges, and this time they're going to deal with the emoluments clause to impeach him.
I'm watching it. I'm watching it.
And it's going to happen. It's going to happen, folks, and we're going to be dead in the water.
Listen, now, Jovan, I'm telling you, I am like Norm Eisen keeps my eyes on him. I don't care where he goes. I don't care where David Brock goes. I find them and I watch them. And I'm telling you right now, with all the same people they are 100% going to indict him again while he is president.
That's right.
At least try to impeach him. And that's why we're watching all these criminals, which all it goes back to World War II. It's a whole different thing. But we're watching all these criminals continue to go on at CNN and MSNBC every single day. He hasn't rescinded the Smith Modernization Act. He hasn't rescinded the International Organization Immunity Act. He hasn't rescinded any the mail-in ballot thing hasn't been rescinded.
That's right.
So what we're looking at is this setup, and right after the midterms, when they take back power, they are going to indict him within days, and it's already written. I believe that it's the same people. I call them the four horsemen of lawfare are all ready to go. And that's why they're sitting out there, Eisen and Jen Rubin, doing their contrarian podcasts, giddy about the midterms. And
right.
Nobody's getting it. And I don't understand. No, I don't think Pam Bondi is great. I'm sick of everyone vomiting all over themselves about how great they are. This should have been dealt with. 2020 is the tip of the spear of getting all of this. And okay, go ahead. Tell people what they
I am surprised how many people still believe this. But let me tell you a few things, folks. President Trump can all day long say we need to go to mail-in ballots. You have to wonder why there's a disconnect with the RNC saying bank your ballot, which is early voting and mail-in ballots. It's because we have a uniparty, folks.
Yes.
President Trump's an island. Best he can do is an executive order, but he can't control state elections. He can't. And you don't even understand we have 50 state elections. He doesn't have a say. So here's the deal. Even if they placate this joke that we're going to hand count the ballots, which would be great, getting rid of the machines, but the machines have a standard 10-year contract. It ain't going to happen immediately. But let's say they even could. When somebody's sitting at a table and that mail-in ballot comes in, which it will, from a dead person on the voter roll, an illegal immigrant on the voter roll, total phantoms on the voter roll, how does the ballot tell you I'm a legal ballot voted illegally? They're still going to print them. They still have them. All of their bullets are still in the gun. And this is why they wanted to make you look and chase squirrels. Look over here, change the numbers on TV. First time it ever happened. Folks, every bit of that was psychological warfare. Every single bit of it. It comes down to the paper, right? The paper tells the story, and it does not matter if you're a conservative or an independent or a liberal. The paper tells the story. That's how our country is set up. We have to honor what the people say. And if we can't get the paper right and count them right, we are nothing but slaves who are earning battery units for the system. And when I look at everything that's been put out there, how does somebody come in and have a $160,000 salary, formerly a bartender, now worth 30, 40 million bucks? What's the secret? It certainly ain't even tech stocks, because you can't even do it that fast. No. It's because it's all a grift. Now, the difference is they con people. They con people. They will give you, see, they give you both sides. I told you a long time ago, and Mel, you said the same thing. Yes, George Soros bad, but who's funding Soros? Well, we find out with USAID, and Mel was the first one to call that out. Even before Elon walked in, Mel did that and said, look, USAID is where it happens. Well, that's where we found it out. That's where we found millions on Social Security. But that was low-hanging fruit. If 12 million bad people were on Social Security, you take those people, you look for their voting records, they would have found them.
Exactly.
But they didn't do it.
No.
That's how bad the system is.
Well, that's because we have a captured country and all the time. And I see what Trump's doing. I know he's dismantling the international banking cartel's hold over our nation. But the truth of the matter is multiple things have to be done at once. And Bassan is out there and other people trying to deal with the financial system and the nonsense, the U.S. taxpayers' debt is all because we have been paying for the entire war on terror, the entire globalist operation because of the setup. At World War II, our parents and grandparents are all fighting, and the bankers don't stop at all. They set this all up. So you have to dismantle that. But not if we don't have fair elections, all of it is for naught. And,
we paid them to enslave us.
And we have a very short amount of time. I don't see anyone talking about it. Lara Trump is now a celebrity on Fox News. She's not running the RNC again. We have that same guy in there. And frankly, Nobody is. I am so frustrated. Everyone keeps telling me to calm down, but I have evidence of all the NGOs. I have my own evidence. I have evidence of West Executive Advisors. I have evidence of all kinds of stuff. You have all this evidence. I know other people do, and yet there's a disconnect. You can't get. I mean, I haven't even tried because it's not worth my time at this point. I got to do what I got to do with my audience. But in the meantime, we see very little action, and I see a storm ahead because I know who the people are that put together exactly what you're talking about. It was the Transition Integrity Project and Georgetown Law School and NYU Brennan Center and the AME Church. I mean, they're still all out there. They still have the mechanisms, and now they all the illegals. Yeah, so go ahead. Tell people how they can help us.
Folks, I'll tell you like it is. We have a uniparty. Let me tell you how this works. And I'm going to tell you from right inside the belly of beast. I got a phone call one day, says President Trump wants to sit down with you.
I remember.
So, of course, I answer the call and I go sit with President Trump. Wasn't it a rally? Wasn't it an event? It was go sit down with him at Mar-a-Lago. So Secret Service all over me, recheck my background, everything else. I go into Mar-a-Lago, go back to the back, go up to his little office on top, right? And here I am with President Trump and his election team, et cetera. Now, they hate me for telling you this. I'm just going to give you the facts. You make up your own mind. You just make up your own mind.
Yeah.
So I sit with President Trump, eyeball to eyeball, half of the time sitting right at his desk looking at him, the other half of the time standing behind his desk with him, going over numbers for 96 minutes. The average meeting with the President of the United States, about 3 or 4, for 96 minutes. Then dinner afterwards. Dinner afterwards, he's telling his key person, you make sure you get with Jovan, you get on this, and you get it done right now. He said that 4 times before dinner was even over. I did a couple of calls. One person that got plugged into it came up with the story, well, you really didn't do a forensic audit. All the myths that were out there. At the end of the day, they were so entrenched with other teams that basically told you, it's the machines and we got it all. They couldn't hear the truth. Now, when President Trump passes it on, you expect it to be acted on. That's where it gets killed.
Welcome to America.
That's where it gets killed. President Trump can direct it, doesn't mean they do it. And when you look inside the system, these people only know what they know, only want races and candidates, and they too need a crisis. They need America fearing for their life because it's more donations because they get 25 cents of every dollar that's raised because they did the promotions.
I mean, imagine Act Blue still hasn't been indicted. I mean,
right.
I mean, this far in, and you're telling me to calm down. They got a lot on their tip. Nope, that's an indictment. Dozens of people can prove, including you. So let's tell the audience how they can help us, because me and Jovan and a group of people that actually realize that it doesn't matter who's president if the people are not running the country themselves, have a plan. And Jovan's leading the way. Can you tell people how they can get involved to help out?
So we have all of this evidence, just like I told you, 208 million proof files, absolute hardcore proof files to show this according to the doctrine of law, exactly how it has to be presented. No questions. It's not theory. Here it is. So here's what we're doing. We never thought that we would have to be holding on to this, maintaining a perfect chain of custody for 4.5 years to even get to the light of day. Well, we just can't keep it up. It's that simple. We can't keep it up. So one of our fans out there has put together a Give, Send, Go. It's givesendgo.com/Save the Evidence 2020. Save the Evidence 2020. givesendgo.com /
It's sad that we have to do this ourselves, but we do.
I think about this.
Administration that's not captured. As much as everyone loves Trump, our country is rotten to the core in terms of corruption, and the president is kept in a certain place by multiple people, and it's both sides. They're all corrupt. So go ahead, tell them. This is really
I just think about this. I have to laugh when I see some of the things that people raise money for. We've never done a fundraiser. We've already always gone in our pocket and done it because it had to be done. But now they've stretched us. This is what they hope to do, break down, because the evidence goes away. You can never present it. So we need the public's help. Hopefully we get enough to maintain the evidence. If we get far more than that, we've got more programs to do it. But this is a battle. This is war. It's the way it is. They try to wear you out. If they can't kill you, then they try to ruin your reputation. If they can't ruin your reputation, then they pay other people just to blast you and tell you it was a con. That's the way it works, folks. We need your help. This is important evidence. It is historic evidence of how they do it, how it's done. It will set the tone for how we go forward. It will help us not only write contracts, but also laws to plug all this stuff, which is 100% preventable.
I know.
But they're not doing it. We can fix this,
So
but we need your help.
what is it, Give, Send, Go? What is the Give, Send, Go?
GiveSendGo.com/Save the Evidence 2020. GiveSendGo.com/Save the Evidence 2020. It is to protect the Maricopa County Full Forensic Audit Archives. Remember, with one turn up of the systems, we completely have everything in the election as it occurred. All of this stuff from every other piece of election from 2020 has now been destroyed, except this incredible evidence.
Yeah, and at this point, it seems like if Susie Wiles doesn't think it's important, it's not getting to Trump. So we, the people, have to be as loud as possible and demand that this is not only top of mind, but the 2020 election needs to be dealt with. And
well, I'll be transparent with you if that's okay.
Sure.
The person that President Trump was saying get on this with Jovan was Susie Wiles. In the meeting there with Trump, as I'm going through it and we're having a discussion, I said, President Trump, what you need to do is eliminate the voter rolls 100%. And he says, well, I can't do that until I'm president again. And he says, I said, well, we can clean them up. We can get these out before the election. Susie chimed up in the meeting, and I'm just being transparent. You decide what this is, right? And she says, well, we've been told don't bother to clean the voting rolls because they'll just put them right back on. Well, that was the message you were fed by Mike Lindell and his team, Cause for America. And I'm hearing it replayed to me sitting right there with President Trump. So after dinner, he's telling Susie, get on it, get on it, get on it, which Susie did, right? I basically stepped aside from my father's funeral. I was burying him so I could have this call with Susie. We try to work out the details. We're going through a series of calls until she puts on. She said, okay, I'm going to put on one of the other people to help me do this. Well, that was Christina Bobs, right? Who was, of course, one of the White House attorneys and stuff. As I'm going through this, Christina Bobs says, well, I heard you didn't do a full forensic audit. I'm going, what? What do you mean? Well, I heard you didn't turn in a report, which is actually what the Lindell team and them had spread and put out. Totally erroneous. But you can imagine there's two things. Don't clean the voter rolls, and there never was a full forensic audit in Maricopa. That's at the highest level in this country, how bad this information runs upstream. That's what we fight, folks. It is not liberals. It's not Democrats. It's a uniparty trying to own us all. That's how bad this fight is.
It's even bigger than that. The entire country is captured by a global financial order that is not willing to give up at all. And as long as they can continue to buy their way into, everything, we don't have a shot. So we, the people, have to be the ones. And that upsets me so much because I have given up so much and put so much time, effort, and energy. I'm on the road again this week for this whole cause. And I know that I am getting the same feedback from everyone. And I know a lot of people that are very high up, as you do. And everyone's saying the same thing. All the things that we care about, we keep saying, they're not getting anywhere. And I mean, and the whole BS about real ID somehow going out there as the biggest load of crap, because you know what's going to happen. People are going to not be able to get it by the election. And then there's going to be chaos. And I mean, it's too late. There are so many things we could do. We could have done. We could have already indicted easily, Act Blue easily. And frankly, it's going to be up to us. And I'm not blackpilling anyone. I still believe in God and country and America and the future. But if you are thinking that the government right now is going to save us,
No.
you are mistaken.
You're
They
sadly
are
mistaken.
captured, and Donald Trump can only do what he can do. Executive orders aren't.
It's up to us.
And they're not
It's up
doing
to
it.
us. We have to be
get
able to withstand
involved
this.
locally and start pushing it. People have to realize you don't need the government to start pushing bills, pushing legislation, getting involved. All you need to do is to be willing to learn how to do it and do it yourself and get around like-minded folks.
Every bit of this can be fixed in the simple contracts down to the county level. We can plug every one of these holes. We do not need the lawmakers to do it.
Exactly. Great job. Now, can you tell everyone where to find you, how to follow you, and how I will put, of course, at the bottom all of the information about the Give, Send, Go. And also, if you want to get involved, take all this information and get with your local friends and get involved. Every county should be represented by the people that live there, and you should be standing for your neighbors and your friends and your community, and that is how we do this. Local action, again, is the only option.
Local. Yes, we get rid of the machines. We go to paper ballots, one-day voting with absolute ID, hand counted, and we need to take precincts down, smaller precincts, so people know people. Folks, I do
more precincts, the better.
That's right. More precincts. We could count them before, we can count them again. Folks, I do a program called Cut the Crap. Because this is crap. And you just want to grab these guys by the lapel and go, cut the crap. Well, crap stands for culture, race, and American politics. So you can find me on Rumble at rumble.com/Jovan Hutton, Hutton Pulitzer. And my programs every day, 7 days a week, 7 a.m., 7 p.m. I do that in Central Standard Time because it's 777. Because we've got to make our own luck. There is not luck. There is only laboring under correct knowledge. And that's what I teach. And we have to do it by cutting the crap.
Well, I love you, and I will see you soon, and we will continue to fight. You know what? I mean, I'm never giving up. Even if any of this happens, I still believe in liberty and this country and the promise of our founding that I'd like to get back to, and I will do everything I can to do that, as you will. Thank you,
I just want to say thank you, and I want to, the love is mutual, but you are, I can now count only on one hand the people I truly trust.
Me too.
That truly can stay the course and fight for the right things. You lead that charge. And I just want to say, God bless you for even being willing to do it. You are so important to this fight.
Thank you so much. I will see you soon, my friend. Everyone, please, if you can, give to the Give, Send, Go and get your own group together to make a difference where you are. Every county should be represented by we the people. And if it's not, you better be the one who starts it. We'll see you next time. Thank you. As many of you know, I have a new book out called Americans Anonymous, Restoring Power to the People, One Citizen at a Time. This book is about education. It's about knowledge, but most of all, it's about empowering you. The swamp has been infiltrating our nation for well over 100 years, and it is absolutely right in your backyard, just like it is in DC. And now is the greatest time for you to take control, to go back inside, to have time with yourself to determine exactly who you are, what you want for your future, your family's future, your children, and for this country, and to become a great change maker in making that happen. Your sphere of influence is more important than you think. Every single American citizen can do their part because God gave us all unique gifts that are personally yours to be used by you to make the changes that you wish to see in our nation. I have written Americans Anonymous for just that. We have 12 steps in here of how we got here, how we can get back to unity, to the golden rule, to the 10 commandments, and to treating our fellows as we treat ourselves. I've included the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence in the appendix of this book. Why did I do that? Because too many people have not read them, and the truth is, we, the people, are the government. And if you do not know your rights and you do not know when they are infringing upon your rights, it's going to be very difficult for us to really make the stand that we need to make right now. So what I ask you is to find what you are passionate about, what makes you tick, educate yourself. This book is the best start for it. We, the people of the United States, will continue to make this a more perfect union. But that includes you and me being active, standing up, speaking up, and showing up. So make sure that you grab yourself a copy of Americans Anonymous, Restoring Power to the People, one citizen at a time, and get one for your friends and family. Head over to themelkshow.com, educate yourself on our free resource page, and grab your book today. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Looking for coffee that actually does something for you? I know I was, and I was searching around trying to find something that would really make a difference. And then I found Danger Coffee. Remineralized with over 50 trace minerals and electrolytes to fuel hydration, energy, and vitality. It's mold-free, lab-tested, ethically sourced, and roasted fresh for peak flavor. It is delicious. Single origin, specialty grade, pure performance in every cup. Ready to upgrade your brew? Click the link at themelkshow.com or visit dangercoffee.com. Use code MELK10 at checkout for a discount and start drinking dangerously with Danger Coffee.